Okay, so the topic of this video is traditional ab exercises, in particular leg lifts and crunches. And in just a moment, I'm going to show you videos of 3 different women and 3 different tummies, one of which being my own, and a couple of different exercises that they're doing or that we're doing, and what their tummies are doing during that exercise. Now the point here isn't to say that this exercise is bad, it's just to say that just to show you how it's too much for us right now. In particular, I want you to pay attention to the bulging in the abdomen that I will point out to you at different points throughout the video. And we all have very different levels of strength in our abdomen and different things going on. So hopefully you'll see that. What I want to do here is to encourage you to think about the type of ab exercises that you're doing, and to think that it's just not one size fits all, that while these exercises might be right for someone, they might not be right for someone else. Okay, so in this first video, you can see this lady's abdomen is kind of bulging just there, just above her belly button. There's kind of like this little point where it kind of peaks, and the linea alba is getting stretched out. But you can also see around her low belly button, her lower belly, the whole thing is kind of bulging out and it dips in right there. It's like the whole rectus abdominis is kind of bulging out and not really being engaged properly in the movement. This movement is just a bit too much for her. Okay, so this second video shows my tummy about 4 months postpartum, and it really shows that nice little bulging of the rectus abdominis that I was talking about in the last video. You see where that kind of hollows in there, that kind of area? This is what I'm trying to show in this video. I'm doing a kind of dead bug variation. And yeah, all of that hollows out. All of that part of the belly just completely hollows out. And all of the rectus abdominis kind of is just bulging up. Now, this is a third person. This is a third tummy. This is another client of mine. I'm just checking her diastasis recti here. She has about a 2-finger gap between the 2 sides of her rectus abdominis. It doesn't look very bad or very big from here, but what I want you to see is how that is all of that is just bulging up when she does a big head lift, when she does a kind of crunch. Just that part that bulges up down the middle is there. You can see it really clearly there. It all just kind of bulges up, and she cannot do a crunch without that happening. So this is a crunch kind of movement, whereas the other 2 videos were kind of like leg lifts or a dead bug. So it's a different type of movement, and how her tummy is reacting to that. So this is kind of just a little bonus in a way. Here I am doing a kind of crunch and a heel slide. This was right after the first video that you saw of my tummy bulging out. And I'm just checking the tummy while I'm doing it, checking that it's not bulging up, checking that there's no sort of tension on the linea alba, checking that everything's sort of staying flat. So this is the kind of way that we might need to train the core earlier on, rather than doing really aggressive leg lifts. Okay, so all of that was kind of to introduce to you the idea of bulging when you're doing abdominal exercises. And it's a bit of a tricky topic because in the literature, there's nothing that really shows us that this is going to cause damage or it's going to worsen a DR or cause a DR or anything like that. And I'm definitely not here to say that it will. But what it might be is it might be just a sign that it's a little bit too much for the abdominal muscles to cope with at this time. And so it's a sign that kind of the pressure is leaking out of the system, and the abdominal muscles aren't able to kind of hold that in. There are no good and bad exercises. You'll have seen in that video that one of the ladies did a crunch and her tummy really bulged up, but then the next video was me doing a crunch and saying this is the kind of exercise we want to do. So the point here definitely isn't to say that that a crunch is bad, but for her at her stage, it was a little bit too much for her abdomen. And for me, at that particular stage in my journey, it really suited what I was doing. So there's no good and bad, there's no black and white. It's just about adapting the movement and modifying the movement and finding the right level of difficulty for that person at that time. And the same goes for leg lifts. What the first lady was doing was some quite aggressive double leg raises. And at this moment in time, it looks like it's a little bit too much for her abdomen, and there's some bulging out of the linea alba and in the lower abdomen. Again, the exercise itself isn't bad. It's just kind of like doing a squat with too much weight. So maybe this would really suit somebody who who's later on down the line, or who has a stronger abdomen, but at the moment it's a little bit too much for her. This is really just to get you thinking about the kind of exercises that you're doing for your core muscles, for your tummy muscles, for your abdominal muscles, whichever term you want to use. And just think about whether or not you have diastasis recti. Look at your tummy and see what it's doing. Is doing exercises like that cause it to bulge out? Is that really going to help it get flat? Because I'm not sure that it is. So a possible solution is to just reel it back in and lower the intensity until you find exercises that seem to match the level of your abdomen, and then progressively overload. As you get stronger, you increase the difficulty, you increase the load on the abdominal muscles, and you make it harder, and your muscles will get stronger along with the level of the exercises that you're using. This is the bread and butter of all training, of abdominal training, of any kind of training. If you want to make your legs stronger, you have to do the same thing. If you want to run longer distances, it's also progressive overload, just doing a little bit more each time. But if you do too much at once, it's probably not as beneficial.